I wanted to be a millionaire by the time I was 30. Where did that come from? I have no idea. But I think I had this in my mind, this vision of like white picket fence, 2 kids, $1 million. I don't know why. So that was what was driving me. And I think that, I would say that's not what it's all about, right? Being happy is not defined by how much money is in the bank, for sure.
Okay, I will not spoil the story on whether or not Brock becomes a millionaire by 30, so don't worry. I am so excited to welcome to the channel today, Brock Morrison. I knew as I was starting this channel that I really wanted to be able to create videos where I had conversations with people who had interesting knowledge, interesting experiences and perspectives, and to be able to bring that to all of you. And so we're starting with a very good friend of mine who has been a fantastic mentor and who has been a leader of mine for the past decade, Brock Morrison. Brock was most recently the CIO of Sasser Family Companies, but I think you'll see as you start hearing his story that he didn't take a traditional path towards leadership. In our conversation, Brock and I really talk about forging your own path. You'll hear Brock talking about his self-directed learning style, his thoughts on not going to college, his entrepreneurial successes and failures, and his eventual path towards leading IT across various industries. I'm really excited for Brock to share his insights with you, so let's jump straight into the conversation. Welcome to I guess this is the inaugural version of, let's just call it the podcast, because I feel like otherwise we're going to keep calling it other things. The Noticeably Better In Conversation With. Welcome, Brock Morrison. Brock, I've had the great honor to work for you for basically the past decade.
Pleasure to be here, for sure, and an honor to be the first conversation of many, I'm sure, to follow.
Yeah, I need you to plug this with absolutely everybody you know, so that suddenly I am a famous interviewer.
Yes.
So I obviously know a lot about your story, but a lot of our viewers probably don't know too much about your story. So I'm wondering if you can give us just the 10,000-foot view, Brock Morrison, with maybe a few little extras here and there of detail, if you feel like you've got some things that you want to tell us about.
Sure. This is going to be so hard. First of all, I don't like talking about myself, so this could be tricky.
You're a very successful CIO, and you don't like talking about yourself?
Right. So yeah, I've been a CIO the better part of 10 years now, since you joined our team at Car America. Starting out as a network administrator. Fun story, my buddy Bill.
Bill, I know?
Yeah, you know.
Oh, man.
Bill called me up and said, hey, I can get you a job as a network administrator because I think you're pretty savvy with computers. I think you could do it. I had no experience. But I went down, and the week before I started the job, we did a crash course of rebuilding servers and networks. And yeah, that was...
And you live where at this point?
Denver.
Okay.
They moved me from Seattle to Denver.
Oh.
Yes, so they paid for my move down there, and I had a week to prepare. And then Bill left that job 6 months later.
And he left you in the lurch?
Yes.
Sweet.
Yes.
Where does the whole story start? So you said Seattle, and I seem to remember you're from Washington State, somewhere.
Small town, 1,000 people.
Called?
Tenasket. And
Tenasket, okay.
It's about 20 miles from the border of Canada, dead center north.
Oh.
And yeah, it's 56 in my graduating class.
Wow. So when did that happen in kind of the broader scale of Brock Morrison? So finish high school in the middle of someplace in Washington, kind of up by Canada,
in
Tenasket.
the middle 90s, yeah.
Yeah. And then what happens between then and suddenly you're in Seattle and you're getting this job and moving to Denver and suddenly an IT guy?
So, yeah, suddenly an IT guy. I moved out of my hometown to move to Seattle to look for opportunities, and I delivered pizzas, which is why it's really good at directions.
Yeah.
It comes natural to me. And then I got a job with a delivery company driving a box truck. I worked at Home Depot.
Wow.
I had aspirations to be a Home Depot general manager of the store. That was my loft and dream at that time, which is when I got the call from Bill. Yes. I did a stint at a community college where I quickly learned that The formal education route
Mm-hmm.
wasn't really my thing. I've always been like a self-directed learner. I think it comes from like curiosity and wanting to know more about everything. So if somebody mentions a word I don't know, or some political thing or whatever it might be, I
Sure.
always go and research on my own. So the directed learning approach of going to college and just wasn't in my nature. And plus, I didn't come up from a family that said you're going to college. That
Sure.
wasn't the path, because my dad was a single dad of three children,
Mm-hmm.
um, and he didn't have time for any of that either. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Did your other siblings do like a more standard
yeah.
education path?
My sister did, and my brother didn't. He went the construction route, which is how I ended up, while I was a software developer, also starting a concrete construction company with him,
Nice.
which is really the first time I learned. I mean, we were very successful, but it eventually imploded,
Really?
because I thought everybody was like me, meaning driven, want to do the best, can lead people, lead teams, think about costs, think about everything that goes into a business, and which I had always taken for granted, like that came naturally to me.
Yeah.
And my brother didn't really have those same like traits.
So you took a non-standard path into IT,
Yeah.
and at some point we're going to get to the real questions where we're not just doing the Brock kind of
Okay.
preamble. I am curious, and I'm sure, like I know this is probably something that comes up when you're having conversations with other CIOs, across Chicago, across the country. Do you run into a lot of other people who have sort of similar, like non-technical backgrounds, maybe didn't go to college, maybe took a less direct path, or like what's that kind of conversation been like as you're relating to other people who are doing similar things to you?
Typically, no. I mean, the college route is in most people's future when they graduate high school.
Sure.
I do find other CIOs that were not in technology and all that had a passion for technology that came over and kind of felt that they were a good leader, and they kind of like I feel like I could always thought I can do whatever. I can go run a business if I needed to start a business, and I think that's part of my passion and curiosity about all aspects of business. So as you know, I don't necessarily stay in my lane
Yeah.
as far as IT. I'm invested and also very passionate about all aspects of business operations, sales, HR. Like,
Do you feel like IT is the true passion?
I think it is the true passion underlying, but I also think I can do more, and I've always thought that. And so when I get to a place where I'm, comfortable, I look for more opportunities to add value to the business. And so, but I always come back to IT.
Are there times when you miss being a software developer?
There are, yes, late night, staying up, till 2 or 3 in the morning, trying to get something out for the business that was really going to have an impact on how they do their job. So yeah, I think I wouldn't say I was always the best software developer. I
Hmm.
think I've told the IT team a couple of occasions that I didn't hold myself to the standards that I hold them to,
Mm.
but I was very successful in the way that I always wanted to understand the business more than critiquing my own code and kind of refactoring it.
Sure.
So really getting the business requirements, understanding their role and their job and what they did, and how the software that I was building was going to improve it.
Like obviously I've always known you. I've known the Brock that is the CIO for quite some time now, and I've been on your team in various capacities. And a few times I've been off of your team, kind of like outside looking in. But I'm curious. I have an idea of what I think your kind of like leadership style is, your leadership mindset. I don't know any other leaders who kind of act or talk or think like you. But when you think about like what is it that makes you special as a leader, what is it that makes you maybe stand out from your peers, or what makes you effective at what you do? Like how do you internalize that?
I'm a servant leader. I think I'm there to like support the team and serve the team and kind of do whatever that they need me to do to like help them get their job done. Like that's the foundational level. I think that part of my for a lot of years, there was a I've never felt like I need to be the smartest guy in the room, and I know I'm not. I think that's because whether it was my lack of a college degree and the insecurities around that for
Mm-hmm.
many years, until someone told me that you already have the the passport or the visa to get in
Mm-hmm.
the country. Don't worry about it. So I would, those conversations around the dinner table with colleagues or customers, and sometimes somebody brings up, where'd you go to school? And I'm like, yeah, and I would just avoid the topic entirely.
Mm-hmm.
Many years ago, I overcame that and kind of realized that, kind of understanding myself and kind of how I got to where I am. Now I have a story to tell that is, not just a school name, but more the kind of the self-directed learner and kind of the curiosity and adaptability and just the general I can attitude.
Keep saying I can, and that makes me think that either that's a refrain or there's an acronym there somewhere.
Well, it's part something to remind me that I'm a people pleaser by nature, which is something that I've overcome. Gotten better at basically putting myself first and foremost over the past couple of years. Really recognizing that I can't do everything for everybody, and I also have to take some time to prioritize myself and my own needs.
Yeah.
And that started with taking motorcycle adventures about 2 years ago, but we'll get to that.
Yes.
The ICANN is yeah. So it's an acronym that kind of works for me and kind of thinking about who I am as a leader and kind of how I got to where I am and kind of will drive me where I am going to be in the future. Is this I can? So I is for to innovate and innovation and kind of just that simple word of encapsulates a lot. People think about innovating new products or anything, but it's at its simplest form. It's just improving something that's that's existing or in place or is established. So whether that's improving myself and a commitment to always trying to be better as a person, I feel in a lot of ways still, but like I think that's definitely ties in with your podcast here is like noticeably better improvements, and you and I have been together on a lot of improvement initiatives within our IT team at Sasser. But so yeah, just innovate, and then just more broadly innovating, just thinking about how to do things differently, and then improve upon the process in a business or on a team or in life. And then CAN. So CAN is curiosity. I'm a very curious individual and like to learn and know and understand more. I just want to know more. So I'm curious by nature. A for adapt. So adapted to the circumstances, the people, the personalities, the business, the culture. I think that's a key attribute that's made me successful is being able to go into a room, and whether it's relating to people on the shop floor, the everyday blue collar workers, or the boardroom. So just be able to adapt to those circumstances and kind of fit in, I guess, and kind
Sure.
of talk the talk, or just being able to be like someone else.
Yeah, I mean, you're extraordinarily good at just relating on a human level
Yeah,
of just like regardless of what we do at a given company or kind of the context, just like being Brock with whoever that person is.
yeah, but I'm still me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then um, N, CAN for nurture. So I think nurturing yourself and your people and your team. I think I've always done that of like supporting the team, lifting them up, thinking about succession plans for them, what's a good role for them, new opportunities. I think I've always said, to the in our IT team, we want you to like keep growing and keep developing and keep learning new skills and technologies, and so you can really build a solid resume. So if you know want to go find a new job, you can, and you have
Sure.
the resume to do that, and it's not stagnant. But also, you choose to stay with the company because you like working with us and you like the culture.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I'm uh I'm interested in the kind of nurture piece because I feel like more than a lot of leaders that I'm aware of, my experience is somewhat narrow, and this isn't to be like negative about any of them, but you have a real passion for the like people element of being a leader, and I I would like if I were to characterize you as any two things. It's like extraordinarily positive or optimistic about new things, sometimes probably to your own detriment and mine, of being like extraordinarily excited about whatever that new thing is, but then also really, really caring about the people. And I'm curious, is there something that like not everybody has that trait? Is that something that you've just always had? Are there experiences that you feel like pushed you to being like, oh yeah, I need to be a extraordinarily caring leader, or somebody that really
Hmm.
is focused on their people?
I think I think it comes from just a sense of like wanting to give people the opportunity that maybe it wasn't presented to me that I had to work for, but also seeing the best in people. And sometimes people don't see, what they're capable of. And like, I think going back to my brother and giving him the opportunity to have his own concrete company, also being able to recognize, what you're good at and kind of elevate those people to be doing what they love.
Do you think you can be a good leader without having that quality?
Yes, you can be a great leader with that quality.
With that quality?
You can be a good leader without it, and maybe that's not your strength, your ultimate strength, but I think you'd be a great leader with that quality. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. You're saying that that can be a limiting factor
I think
for
so.
people if they're not able to like connect to the fact that they are leading other humans.
Yeah, and I think part of it's going back to the adapt portion of people and like their personality types and kind of their comfort zone and recognizing that and putting people where they're going to be comfortable. I think I like Patrick Lencioni's working genius, where instead of like just a personality test, it really breaks down what people are good at and what they're passionate about, and then having them recognize that and like the team is made up of all of these six working geniuses, and you need all of them.
I'm curious what's next for Brock Morrison. So I we work together at Sasser. You have been away from Sasser for a couple months now. I'm sure gallivanting on a motorcycle around the country,
Yes.
or around the world potentially. Tell us a little bit about that. I know a little bit. You mentioned in the travel trailer. I know that you have gone on these motorcycle journeys and I've seen videos. But how did that even come about? Like I feel like 2 years ago, suddenly you're like on a motorcycle and you're like, oh yeah, I'm in Morocco, sorry, or I'm like biking across Iceland for 2 weeks. I'll catch you guys later.
Yeah.
Um, how did that come about? A, B, how did you get that much time off? Because I certainly did not have that much time off when you were my boss. And C, what are you getting out of it? Like what's the piece of it that makes you really come back? Because it sounds like it's something that you've been doing a lot of
Yeah.
and continue to want to do.
Yeah. So a little over 2 years ago, I I mean, I had been thinking for years that I need to take more time for myself, prioritize my own needs. So
Yeah.
I grew up on motorcycles, riding dirt bikes, but hadn't done it for 20, 30 years. And I'd always wanted to do it. So got to give it to Instagram marketing. This company out of LA had seen their posts, and one night I just booked a trip for myself to ride a motorcycle through Zion and Bryce Canyon, mostly 80% off road, 20% on road, and yeah, pulled the trigger with Wilderness Collective.
Do you
And
have footage that we could insert here while you're
oh
talking
yes,
about?
yes, so much footage. And the great thing about this, I mean, they're just tops, like just best in class. From They don't call them tours; they're adventures, right? And you never know where you're going to end up. Never know if you're going to get a flat tire and how that's going to deviate your path for the day or the night. Um, so I've been on many trips with those, including Iceland, Baja, Mexico, Death Valley, Portugal, which
Wow.
is more this year. Yeah, so yeah, they're a great organization for kind of adventure seekers. And 2023 is going to be my career break. I took some time off for family and personal reasons, but then also I had the opportunity to take a month-long uh, motorcycle trip through Morocco and Portugal. So we spent 2 weeks in the Sahara Desert and the Atlas Mountains of Morocco.
Oh my gosh.
And then with a group of 10 guys, I knew one guy from the trip. He was on my Iceland trip. And then I spent a week in the backcountry of Portugal with the Wilderness Collective folks from out of LA.
Wow.
It was amazing.
Do you feel like you found yourself in that month? I feel like everybody would be like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to the wilderness to find myself."
Found a lot of things. 15 flat tires.
You had 15 flat tires?
Not me, but the 10 of us. And we
Okay.
only had 4
Okay, that's
tubes.
fair.
So we had to patch them ourselves, and then
Wow.
2 punctured oil filters. We had to like use JB Weld to like repair them
I don't
alongside the
even know
road.
what an oil filter is, so
I
good for
know,
you.
I know. Yeah.
Actually, I do have a question about that. You've brought up a few times this like it's a mixture of the I can, but then also like doing things with your hands. And I have to imagine, like we talked about the trailer, we talked about motorcycling, we talked about the concrete business, like all of these different things where there's some element of like building.
Yeah.
Can you say a little bit more about like that, whatever that desire is to build stuff, to use your hands, to dig in?
Well, it's why I miss, being a software developer, like actually having, build it with my hands, and like putting something that's going to provide value. But I think there's like a therapy or something in like doing physical labor, manual labor, at least for me, and definitely more of it in the last 2 years since I started my motorcycle adventures, and just the desire to like, do build things around the house. I think it's part a break from work and more that kind of taking time for me, and it's a point of like relaxation, but also using my mind to think about how to engineer something, right? Because I'm not typically going off some set of blueprints. I'm actually coming up with a design or how it's going to all fit together in my head.
Do you
So
feel like that's carried over to work for you?
I think it's always been part of me. Like I think that's part of what I do. It's laying awake at night trying to figure out how to like solve some code issue that I had, 15 years ago, or trying to figure out how I'm going to solve people challenges and kind of moving people around the organization to kind of get that optimal team.
So I have a bonus question.
Is this something you ask every guest?
I plan to ask every guest,
Okay.
but it's also a little cliche, so you can decide if you
Okay.
want to answer it or not. If you could talk to like the younger version of yourself, and I'll let you determine how old you are at that time. What are some things that you would offer to the younger version of yourself about kind of where you've ended up now, and where you see yourself going?
Hmm. Understand who you are as a person as much as you know at that point. If it's in your 20s or maybe I graduated high school, like truly take time to understand who you are and who I am, and kind of know what drives you, and kind of know what your passions are. Like do more introspection, I guess. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. Do you feel like it was not like at that time you weren't looking inward?
I was no, no. I think so that in conjunction with how to define success in my eyes, I was, I wanted to be a millionaire by the time I was 30. Where did that come from? I have no idea. But I think I had this in my mind, this vision of like white picket fence, 2 kids, $1 million. I don't know why. So that was what was driving me. And I think that, I would say that's not what it's all about, right? Being happy is not defined by how much money is in the bank, for sure. Um, but it's also about doing what you love and who you are as a person.
Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to Brock for sharing your insights with us. I know both Brock and I would love to hear from you in the comments, so feel free to share down below your favorite part of Brock's story, or even to ask any questions you have as you think about your journey down life's path. If you haven't subscribed already, I would really appreciate it if you did. It really helps out the channel, and it helps me be able to produce content like this. And so, until next time, I hope you have a noticeably better day.